Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to do part 2 of a capital ship video. I thought before we went over there and took a good look, I thought I would show you this shuttle that I threw together between part 1 and part 2 of this series, as I recall. I made a really quick and dirty shuttlecraft that, had some weapons and some cargo space. And, I used it to gather some of the materials I needed for this big ship over here. And I was out, this thing was like, it was like an engine strapped to a cargo trailer. It was a little bit more complicated than that. Maybe I'll link the videos to that video that I made where I designed that on camera for everybody to see in the description. But anyway, while I was out gathering materials for this big ship, in that ship that was designed very hastily to be very quick and easy to build and just get me out there getting stuff going so I can make this ship as quick as possible. This capital ship that I'm about to show you. When I was out gathering materials, I ran into some bad guys and I was pretty good dodging their shots, but one lucky shot managed to hit my fuel tank. Exploded and stranded me in the middle of nowhere. And I put some armor around the fuel tank so that wouldn't happen, but it wasn't very strong armor. Like I said, this was quick and dirty. It was trying to get it done as quickly as I possibly could so I could get on with what I was trying to get on with. And it stranded me, and it was a big deal to go out there and recover it and get going again. So I made another shuttle. This is a bona fide cargo carrier. It has some guns to defend itself with, but it's got a lot of very big, well, not very big, but a lot of fairly big engines for a ship this size on it. You can see, I've got all kinds of engines on this thing. And 6 on each side. And anyway, so I designed this. It has the same hauling capacity as the other one, but it looks nicer and it's way more durable. It even has an energy shield on it. So I'm going to show you the ship. It's not quite done, but it's getting pretty close. Close enough now that you can see what it's gonna, almost see what it's gonna look like. I'm just gonna do a little fly around so you can see what it looks like from the outside. Now what you see on the corners of this ship, you can see clusters of 3 engines. Those are the smallest engines you can make, and they are going to be, at least for a ship this size. And we're going to use those to get this off the ground, and because right now the thing is flush with the ground, we can't get underneath it to work on the underside of the ship. So I placed some engines facing down that will give me just enough thrust to get this off the ground, and that'll be one of my next steps after this video is over. I was working on that. I'm going to leave those lights on. Alright, so the outside doesn't look like much. It's a flying brick. But once again, the idea is to get out there into space and doing the things that you need a ship this size to do, and then we can build a better ship later. The idea was trying to make this ship as quickly as possible so we can get out into outer space and start exploring the galaxy. It's not pretty, but it will do the job. So this is the main entrance, the hangar bay door. I did mention a hangar bay in the last video, as I recall, and we're going to use it. We're going to come on in. It's a pretty tight fit, but once again, this is a minimalist design, so turn that off. That little sound is me docking with the ship. Those landing gear that I placed on this shuttle make it so that it will stay put when I start flying around. I did not mean to turn that on yet. That's actually the first time I've turned this ship on. Alright, so here we have the hangar bay door. That's what it looks like when it's closed. Because I turned the ship on, it closed itself. I put fuel in this just before I started the video, because I was just about to turn it on and start working on it. You can see here, I've got some places marked off in the hangar bay. My OCD is telling me back up a little bit. Not really OCD, but I joke about it. That's a little bit better. At least I'm pretty close to my parking spot at this point. You'll see that I marked on the ground gray squares when I was designing this hangar bay. I know that that ship fits within a 3 block by 4 block space. The reason I know that is because I've made this grid out here to help me measure things. I believe I mentioned that in the first video. But using these grids, I can tell that my ship is 2 blocks tall, a little less than 2 blocks tall, and about 3 blocks wide and about 4 blocks long. At least it fits within those dimensions, which is important for the design of the ship. So you see, we have enough room to get into the ship because we have just a little bit more than 2 blocks of vertical clearance on this hangar bay door. Makes it a little tighter than I want it to be, but I tried a bigger bay door and it didn't help as much as I'd hoped it would. So we're going with that smaller door for now. We can design something better later. I still didn't park within that spot and it's bothering me. But you can see that we have 2 parking spots just like that. We can easily have 2 ships like that and one that's a little bit smaller, something that would be more like a fighter craft, something that's light and only has weapons on it, doesn't have a lot of cargo space like this one over here does, so that we can, have a good variety of vehicles. I would have 1 cargo hauler like that, probably a miner that I would park here, and a fighter that I would park here. This green square is marked out for something I can't make yet. It's part of the reason I'm building this big ship, is there's an exotic metal ore that is hard to find, and you need to be able to travel from one star system to another to be able to find it, generally speaking. So I've marked a place. This is the repair bay. The green area here is the parking spot for the repair ship. There'll be a special block that I put here that will allow me to repair any ship that's parked over it. And then this R tells me where the console to control that block's function will be located. It'll be located just above that R, whereas the repair block will be actually replacing this R block here. So I laid all that out and painted it out and stuff so I could get a good idea of, hey, can I fly into this place? Can I park vehicles in a few different places? Do I have room for a few vehicles? Do I still have room with a few vehicles to have a repair bay? And I do. And it's a pretty tight fit because I ended up having to put my warp drive down here. That lets me travel from one star system to another between the stars. Whole point of this ship right there. You'll notice that this ship is, or that this warp drive is highly radioactive. If you look in the upper right, I've got 25 rads coming up. That's what that R stands for. At least I assume that's what it stands for. So I'm going to need to make some blocks to surround that. We've got a few. And I should have counted it. This is a little bit of work that I'm going to do on camera, so you can get something of an idea of what it's like to build stuff if you haven't looked at my shuttle overhaul video yet. You'll get to see a few minutes of that here. So this warp drive, you can see, is about 3 blocks wide and about 2 blocks tall and about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blocks long. So we need a wall to go around this. These radioactive components, if you get within 1 block, you start getting irradiated. So we need a wall that's 3 tall and 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 tall and 4 wide. So that's 12 blocks there. We'll need 2 of those walls, so that's 24. And then we'll need another wall that is 3 blocks tall and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wide. So 24 plus 15 is 39. 29 blocks should do the job. So I'm going to go tell my constructor in here in my base to do that while we're looking at the rest of the ship. So it'll be ready by the time we're done. So 30, 40, 39. Alright, so now we're going to look at the rest of the ship. Other points of notice or note in this hangar bay, we've got the main oxygen tanks for the ship down here. There are other places I could put it, but I have some reasons. This little thing that I just turned on shows me where the center of gravity for the ship is. We're going to hop up here on top of our base and get a look. So the center of gravity is roughly on the middle of the second floor of the ship. You can see that the center of gravity is a little high and a little behind, and when we get up there you'll see that it's also a little to the left. I think that there may be a bug in the way that the ship, in the way that the game calculates the, you can see it here too. It is both behind and a little to the ship left side, the port side in nautical terms. It is both behind and a little to the port side. That doesn't really explain why I put the oxygen tanks down here. Well, no, it does. I'm trying to lower the center of gravity a little bit. These aren't very heavy, but they'll pull the center of gravity down just a little bit closer to the geometric center of the ship. That's what the blue dot is. Geometric center of the ship. And since this ship is a giant flying rectangular prism, the center of gravity ideally would be pretty close to the geometric center of the ship. So we have oxygen tanks here. We have ammunition storage down here. This is a box that if I put ammo in here for guns for this ship, the ship will know where to find the ammo and it will just pull them straight into the guns. If I were to store it somewhere else, it wouldn't work. You have to have at least that green part right there to have guns that fire on your ship. Alright, so other points of interest, we have a teleporter here. There's a little pad underneath it. Part of the reason this looks kind of clunky and blocky and not streamlined, or at least taking a giant chunk out of our hangar bay, is because of the way that the switch blocks work in this game. That switch, well, I can just show you. As you see, there's a bunch of empty space underneath it. So if I stuck that there, oh, look at that. There would be nothing protecting me from enemy fire if I had placed the sensor block there. So I have to place it like this, which is a little awkward and a little weird, and I certainly don't want to look at that floating up in the air like that. It just looks kind of silly. So this is what we're doing to make up for that at the moment. Just a design limitation in the game. And we can protect that switch block by placing blocks all the way around it. We don't want that switch block to get broken. The way I have the ship, or this block I should say, set up is when I stand here, it will detect my weight and turn on the teleporter. Why do it that way? Why not just have the teleporter always on? Well, the teleporter is very power hungry and it would burn a lot of fuel unnecessarily if it was always on. So that little switch is there to make it so that it's only on while I'm on it and I'm going to use it. Right now the ship's power isn't turned on, so you can't see that working. I will show that to you later when the thing is completely done. Maybe I'll turn on the power at the end of the video. But alright, so here we have elevators. And if you had a sharp eye, you may have noticed that when I accidentally turned on the power, there were blue fields around those elevators. That is to keep the air compartmentalized. You see I have up here a ventilator. I'm going to turn off that center of gravity thing for now. You see I have a big fancy fan up here. These sorts of things move oxygen around the ship, move air, atmosphere around the ship, and are required along with these oxygen tanks to make sure that you can breathe inside of your ship without having your helmet on and having oxygen coming from your spacesuit. These shields, like you can see right here, stop air from getting out, but that's really all they do. Well, I have shields like that all the way around these elevator shafts, because elevator shafts also do not stop the flow of air. Let's say I get in a fight, and this block right here gets blown up. All of the air in this hangar bay would get sucked out. If I didn't have shields around these elevator shafts, it would also suck air out of the deck above it. So those are there to help keep the rest of the ship safe if I get into a serious fight where some serious hull damage happens. So that's the ground floor. Up here on the second floor, you can see these are storage containers. These are the main storage containers for the ship. One of them will be a place to put finished products that I manufacture while I'm floating around out there. And the other one will be a place to put raw materials. Most likely is how I will lay that out. Anyway, there are other ways that it can be done. All of the doors shut on me. Oh, that's because I turned on the ship's power. Alright, well, anyway. So here's the main storage area. Here's that ventilator that you can see from the hangar bay. It doesn't look like we can quite see through it to the hangar bay below. That would be fun. And here's another one. This ventilator makes sure that the hangar bay and this room here are full of air. These doors actually block airflow, even when they're open. When the power's on, they have shields, you can see. Anyway, so this fan here makes sure that the computer room has air. And yeah, why don't we go ahead and go back. Here's a third storage area. This is a different kind of storage container. This holds ore and wood. If I were to install a mining laser on this ship, this container would allow me to move anything that I mined with this ship directly to this storage. It's also probably where I will have any ores that I pick up while I'm out in another ship gathering materials. It's probably where I would store them. And that way I can have my constructors, my manufacturing facilities, this right here, I could have it pull from the ore and wood container and send it to one of the other container controllers. I will name these later so it's obvious where they go, but I haven't gotten around to that yet. One of them will be labeled materials, one of them will be labeled products probably, or main storage maybe, and then this one will be labeled ore, something like that. Anyway, so now that we're here, this is the main manufacturing area of the ship. This big boxy thing here can make just about anything that I would need to be able to make. And these are food processors. There's non-perishable food rations take a long time to make, so I put 2 food constructors in to help divvy up the several tasks, the several steps that are involved in making non-perishable rations. The game has lots of food items. This is just a sample, and you'll see that they have a perish time, 78. That means 78 in-game hours, and it'll expire. There is one kind of food you could make that doesn't have a perish time, and it's good to have, because if your power fails, it doesn't go bad. This stuff is in a refrigerator, so the perish timer is paused. But if power goes out, then, oops, then that timer starts ticking, and what can happen is you can end up with spoiled food. As you can see, I have 1,513 spoiled food. I had a major catastrophe one time, and my power went out in my base, and it was while I was away from the base, and when I got back, half the stuff in the fridge had rotted. So anyway, we're going to work on making sure that we have non-perishable food rations. So we'll have 2 fridges. One will be for materials, one will be for products, probably. And then we'll have 2 food processors working together to make stuff faster. I don't really like how the back side of this food processor looks. I would prefer for them both to look like this, but that's not the way it works. It looks even sillier if I rotate it like that so you can't see it. So we'll deal with that little small thing. This R is to remind me that this is where I want to place my repair station. You can make a lot of things like this multi-tool that I'm using to rotate stuff and take blocks off and so on. There's a lot of different tools. This is a drill for extracting ore from the earth or whatever. Now I've got a couple of guns and most such things. Also my armor, for example. This is my woolly explorer, my woolly survivor, I should say. But as you can see, there's a green bar on this on the side, and it's not completely full. When that bar empties, then the item is no longer usable. If you have a repair station and it takes up a space 1 block by 2 blocks, then you can repair them and use them again for a while. Eventually things break down to the point where you can't repair them, but I will want one of those, that, like the repair bay down in the hangar bay. It takes certain exotic materials that I don't have enough of to want to be spending. So here we have another ventilator, which makes sure that air from this room gets over into this room. Strictly speaking, I don't really have to do it that way, but it's the way I chose to do it. This room needs a ventilator, so that's where I put it. And here we have the medical bay. These different tables and tubes and things allow me to take care of the various medical maladies that can befall me while I'm out exploring. Here I have the wireless controller. The game makes use of drones. Let me show you one of them real quick. I've got this drone that's flying around now and it's looking at me. I don't think the game is set up to let me zoom the camera out and show the drone to you, but if you have one of these on a ship or a base or anything like that, then you can basically use drones to move stuff around. You don't have to be quite as close. Like I could have my ship just outside of this vessel, and I could transfer the contents of its cargo hold to these cargo containers without having to land the ship inside to do it, which can be very helpful, very time-saving. So here we have another ventilator. But I'm not going to go into that room yet. I'm going to save that one for last because I like that one the best. All right, up here we have the main control. This is the helm, if you will. You see the little handles on it. This is how we will control the ship's movement and any weapons that are not automated. We have to be in that chair. Well, to steer we have to be in that chair. The best place to control weapons is in that chair if they're not automated weapons, but there are ways, I think, to control them other than being in that chair. So I shouldn't say that. But one of the things I have left to do is to complete this display, or this viewport, I should say. While I'm in the chair, you can see that I can see basically all of these 3 blocks and the 3 blocks underneath it, and then part of all the blocks around it. If I were to put the blocks that used to be there back in, you would see what I'm talking about, but you'll have to take my word for it because it's not clear when they're not there. So this is the bridge, so to speak. It's very small because this ship is about as small as I can make it. This is an armor locker. You need these to change the armor that you have equipped. You can't just go into your inventory here and do it. You see, I'm clicking on it, nothing's happening. But if I come into an armor locker, I can take it off. So, anyway, the reason I have an armor locker there is because in here are where most of the radioactive components on my ship are. I ended up making a little mistake, a small mistake when I designed the ship. I didn't account for that warp drive. That's why it's down in the hangar bay. It just so happens there is enough room for it down there. I was thinking that I might put some components down in the hangar bay, so I was lucky that there was enough room for that gigantic warp drive down there. But other than that, all of the other radioactive components are all in here. This is a gravity generator. These two aren't radioactive, but there was extra space, so I put them here. The ball is a detector, a scanner, and the weird looking thing with the circles on it up there at the top is a steering control device. I will probably have several more of those that I place in other places on the ship. It's going to take more than one to steer this monstrosity. This here is a pentaxid tank, and it stores the exotic fuel that is required for warp drives and shield generators. These are the main power generators. The most powerful power generator would, just one of them would take up the same space as these 12 small generators. So that's why I have so many. But it actually takes all 6 of these small power generators to power my ship. I did a little math before I made this video and just wanted to make sure that those small generators would be able to power my ship, and they have just a little bit more power than needed, which is good. So I don't need to upgrade these anytime real soon. But I probably will, because I think the larger one is more efficient. Anyway, here is the shield generator. All of that stuff's radioactive, and I'm about to get a radiation burn from being next to it too long. Alright, so that is the engine room, basically. Not too much left to show you. These here are growing plots. That's dirt. And these are growing lamps. They're UV lights that let you grow plants. They will control the temperature and the light required, and then these of course have all the water and the dirt that you need. And you see I've got a ventilator to make sure there's oxygen in the room, because you know, plants need oxygen too. People think plants make oxygen. I was like, well, yes they do. People think that plants eat carbon dioxide and make oxygen, and that's waste. And that's not entirely true. Plants need oxygen just as much as anything else on planet Earth. They are just capable of synthesizing it from carbon dioxide, whereas animals aren't. Little science sidetrack. Sorry. But anyway, yeah, they need some oxygen. Anyway, so here's another ventilator. And we have back here a ventilator that makes sure that this room here has oxygen. Oof, I can't fly properly. Okay. So that is just about it. There's one room I haven't shown you yet. We have everything we need on this ship. I've shown you everything we need. We have a hangar bay, we have computer space, we have engine space, we've got a place to grow food. But what's the thing that has been missing? Living quarters. So I have a bed, TV, dresser, a little table to eat at, a kitchenette. It's got storage. I could put Cheetos in there. These doors with the glass panes on them are not airtight. That is by design. As you'll see, I don't have a ventilator in this room. Or in this little hallway, here we have the bathroom. We have a shower, a toilet, sink, place to keep my, I don't know, Band-Aids. Band-Aids and medicine. Keep that in the cabinet above the sink, don't you? Anyway, then we have chairs, table, and guest beds. Sorry, you have to sleep on a bunk bed. And some chairs for passengers to sit in while the ship's flying so they don't have to fly around the ship while it's moving. I'm not sure if that's what happens, but it's what should happen. So, and then there's a wardrobe for them to keep some of their stuff in. A cool little table that can be like, hey guys, this is where we're going, this is what we're gonna do, this is the plan. I don't know. Big screen. You could watch movies on it, or you could, if you're, you know, a passenger, maybe you could see what's going on outside of the ship, enemies approaching or whatever, you know. And a potted plant, because why not? It's bolted to the ground whether it looks like it or not. And here's another little storage container that the guests could use, or I could use, or whatever. And there's the ventilator that gives oxygen to this whole corridor and living space, because these doors don't keep the air from flowing. Neither does this one, because I wanted to make sure this space was oxygenated as well. But that's the ship. It's getting dark. Should turn my flashlight on, or my suit light, or whatever you want to call it. I mentioned all these medical things, but one thing I didn't mention is these are cloning chambers. They allow you to respawn, and the way I'm playing the game, I require myself to have one cloning chamber per life, if you will. There is a place in the game where it tells you how long it takes to grow a clone. It's like 1.4 days. So basically I say to myself, to try and keep it as realistic as possible, if my character were to die and I use my cloning chamber as a respawn point, and I always use my cloning chamber as a respawn point instead of some of the other ones that make less sense, like a tent. That's an option. So if I were to die and respawn here, I'd say, okay, well this one can't respawn me for another day and a half. And if I were to die again before that day and a half passed, then I would use this one. And if I died again after that, I'd say, well, now I'm dead. Time to start over. That's because I like to make things a little bit more realistic. It makes combat more interesting if there's some risk. So anyway, here is a oxygen station. Fills your suit oxygen back up. If you look in the lower left corner, you'll see a 393 on the bottom left. And just to the right of that's 400. That means that my suit holds 400 oxygen units, but it only currently has 393. So if I interact with this, I can get out oxygen. Of course, since the power isn't on, it doesn't work. But, so that is the ship. Computer room, as I mentioned in the first video, this lays out for me where the upgrades to the current computer would go. If you look real closely, that is the level 2 upgrade right there, that one block. And then the level 3 upgrade would require this block and the one behind it, and the 2 blocks above it. And then the rest of them would be for the level 4 upgrade. I don't know if we're ever going to need that much. We have here, it tells us what our CPU statistics are. We have currently 431,000 CPU processing units being used by the ship out of 500,000. So if we place those other devices that aren't yet on the ship, those repair stations and things, we might just push up over 500,000. So we might end up needing that tier 3 CPU just for this pretty basic ship. Certainly after we put guns on, we probably will need the tier 3 upgrade, which would be a problem because I'm going to have to fly this ship to go find the stuff to make the tier 3 upgrade, I think, but I'll look into that later. Maybe not. So I showed you the elevators. there's just a couple little things that bother me about the ship. That teleporter, the way that's set up bothers me a little bit. I can make it a little bit more compact, and I think I may. And then this little thing isn't really symmetrical. But I wanted to make sure that there was oxygen in this room here, and that was the best way to do it. Doing it some other way would have required me to take one of the walls out. I could do, we've got stuff here, so I don't want to put a block there. I could put it here, I suppose. That'd be a little bit better. And I maybe I'll move that too. But it's getting to be nighttime. Well, it's really nighttime. That's the ship. So I'm going to get in this little cargo hauler, fly out of here. Show you you can see the shields on that elevator shaft. Everything lights up when the power's on. But I'll give you the full treatment of what the whole thing looks like later in the next video maybe. Yes, there's one thing I forgot. I was going to show you that wall that we need to build around the shield, or the warp drive. We're going to... I just realized I made 39 blocks, but we need to be able to get into this place. Should we need to repair that warp drive? I mean, it's not going to take damage unless the outer hull gets damaged. So I could just go outside and repair it from outside, but I think it's important to have a door. So we're going to make one of those real quick. Armored automatic door. You know, and maybe it'd be good to have some windows so we can look at the pretty thing. I might think about doing that. I'm not going to worry about it at this very moment. For now, I'm just going to grab this and the door, and we're going to go take care of it. So you can see what it's like to build in this game, in case you haven't seen it yet. So, first thing, oh, I just realized that's an issue. So technically, this shield generator is taking up this block space right here. Oops, I forgot about that radiation problem. Let's go take care of that real quick. This table is able to fix radiation burns, so I put it there. And this right here can patch up my wounds. My health is full again, and I'm not bleeding. And we'll shower to get rid of the radiation that had built up on me. Okay. So we've run into a little problem. We might have to move the elevator shaft. There is room to do it. It would mean that the door into the garden area is not centered, which I've been avoiding because it bothers my sense of symmetry. But necessity may require me to move it. Because leaving that open means that I can accidentally just walk out and get irradiated, which we don't want. So I'm probably going to have to move those elevator shafts. See if there's any reason. Yeah, I'll have to move this stuff too. I've been doing a lot of this kind of thinking. It's like, oh, now I have to move that thing. I mean, I've had whole decks that changed while I was building this thing. I intended to take a video between the first one and the second one. I didn't realize until I went to go make this one that I'd forgotten to make it. So you could have seen some of that process. But now you get to see a little, just a little bit of it, because of that mistake I made with the warp drive, not accounting for the warp drive when I started this thing. Anyway, so we're going to probably have to move all that stuff. So I can't place blocks on those three back ones right there, but I can still place the other ones. So you see the little blue cursor in that bar, or that little blue highlight box down in the bar in the middle. That's showing me what I have selected. And I'm just going to simply lay out a basic wall here. And we'll leave space there to put the door. Now, I know what I'm doing this time, and I've already done the counting, so I don't have to do anything real special to do it. But these blocks have numerous different shapes that you can use, as you can see here. They'll look a little different. You can see them. That one's got a little cut corner, you know, and that's how we have the ramps like we have over here. But the one that has the most hit points is the basic cube shape. So that's the one I like to use unless I want to use some other shape for a specific reason. I think maybe we will use an armored door that isn't airtight. You'll see the last thing in the tooltip says airtight, true or false. False means that air passes through it. And I don't want to put another ventilator down here. So I will pick one that's false. Actually, now that I'm thinking about that, there's probably an even better door to put there. But I won't make you wait for me to build that. I'll just put one of these down, and it'll be a surprise for the next video. You can see what door I decide to put there instead. Let's go with... that one looks like it's more transparent. Let's see. None of these tell me how many hit points they have. That one's only 100. That's really bad. Only 100. That one's probably 100 as well. Armored door corner. Oh, that's pretty cool, isn't it? Not going to use it, but kind of cool. Oh, I see. This is a door that's halfway through the block. That's what's special about it. I think I might actually do that this time, because this is going to be where you stand behind the repair console. So I don't want it to be right up on this line here, because it'll go over the line. You know, how did I miss? Oh yeah, that's right. 6 blocks over there. Okay. I was wondering why I still had 7 blocks. It should just be 1. Anyway, so I'll just show you what that would look like real quick. It's not a big difference, but it's significant. If we just used this one, stuck it right on the edge, it's not a huge difference, but it is something. You see that the game is pushing me away from it as I walk past it. So that's a little less space to stand behind this block. I would like a whole block space to stand behind it. I would have actually placed it 2 blocks from the wall if things hadn't turned out the way they did. And I suppose I still could if I want to. I can move this area here 1 block further back, but I'll have more room to park a ship, you know, if I happen to make one that's a little bit longer than that. I'll have to have the block there. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to put that middle of the block door. You can see it's halfway through. And we'll still be able to, oh wait. Oh, that's a problem. I get irradiated if I'm standing in the doorway. Never mind. That's worse. So we're going to use, oops, not that one. Is it this one? I slipped. Are they going to use this one, which makes the glass go up? Or we're going to use this one here, Which makes the glass go sideways. I think we'll go with the one that makes the glass go sideways because I know from experience the ones that go sideways open a little faster than the ones that go up. Makes sense because you have two halves pulling out instead of the whole thing pulling up. You know, it's both narrower and divided in half rather than having to take the whole length all the way up. It doesn't seem like it would make that big of a difference, but when you're in a hurry, it makes a difference. A small one, fraction of a second. If you're in combat and it matters, you'll wish you had a faster door. So we'll go with the faster one. All right, so that's the ship. And it took me a fair amount of time to show you all that. I hope you enjoyed it. When next I post a video, we should have the thing all painted up. Not just reminder markers like these things, but actually have it painted up. Kind of like you see on this ship here. These are the colors I like to use. They're my team colors, if you will. Blue, white, and gold. Or yellow. It doesn't have a real gold color. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Come on back next time. Everything will be all painted up, and maybe a few things will be a little different than you see them right now as I get a little bit more chance to think a little bit more about what I'm doing and maybe what slightly better ways to do it could be. If you can think of ideas, feel free to comment and tell me so. And I'll at least look at them and take them into account when I'm thinking about them. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a good one. Bye.